What's going on, everyone? We got an interesting video here that I kind of wanted to visit, and that's starting off the year 2026 after being 8 days in. How, and you see my headline up here, PlayStation versus Xbox is just not the same anymore. What I want to say is that it just feels more empty than ever. Not that you don't want to look forward to what Microsoft has publishing, like Fable, State of Decay 3, Forza Horizon 6, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Um, and Gears, obviously I'm looking forward to Gears too. It's more like the whole thing before, like, let's see who's going to sell this before. What is Microsoft going to do to kind of combat Sony? I kind of feel like that's all like disintegrated in a way. It's more of a competition between Switch 2 and PlayStation 5 now. And when it comes to like any sense of rivalry, which can be fun, that's why people still watch sports, right? The competitive landscape has just significantly changed. Now Microsoft is now trying to be more of a co-op partner on Sony's platform and even Nintendo's now, and they've been doing it on Steam, to be a dominant publisher, right? As we see right here, the competitive landscape between PlayStation and Xbox has significantly evolved. I don't know about evolved, but I would say for sure Microsoft had to adjust because it's not like Sony changed their game. They've been putting some stuff on PC even years ago before it got this worse. So that's something that Sony wanted to do independently, but their ecosystem is still very healthy. PlayStation Plus is still only on there. They still got their 1 year plus exclusives. Some games never come, like Gran Turismo, Demon Souls, certain other games are just never going to leave. Just like certain games on Xbox, they can't even put over. Like, you're not going to go get Forza Horizon 3 or 4, you know what I mean? You're not going to get older 360 games. Some of that stuff's just not going to be there. But for the most part, all their games are everywhere. And they're saying shifting beyond traditional console hardware rivalry. Well, of course, they have, because there is no rivalry anymore. So it has to be between PlayStation and Nintendo now. And Steam Deck coming into the industry, not necessarily to compete as a console rival to sell the same as like 10, 15 million it needs to be sold yearly or something. No. But they're going to make it very interesting because this is something totally separate from Windows 11 that's not Japanese, if you get what I mean, because Nintendo has their own OS and Sony is using Linux, which Steam is using with Proton DB. So it's definitely going to help put in like that space that's missing from the series consoles that are not selling as well, and Steam Machine is going to be nice for that. But getting back to PlayStation versus Xbox, because we have to add that in because that's eventually going to pop up in that space like a console. Sony continues to lead in the core console experience, which is critically important along with Nintendo. It's very important, driven by a strong lineup of exclusives and a robust ecosystem that includes physical disc support. Them and Nintendo both. They're preserving more than anything, though. And a unique controller with features like adaptive triggers and a touchpad. I have to admit that that's one thing that like I love about the DualSense compared to the Xbox controller, which kind of reached peach perfection in its own sense a while ago, is that Sony keeps on finding ways to make the controller better. It has its own speaker in it, immersive aspects, because I was playing Silent Hill 2, and it's amazing. That game's amazing. I'm loving it. I can't believe it's that good. It's definitely blowing me away in a lot of ways. You got the touchpad, which is up, down, left, right, and a touch center. So that's 5 different control mechanisms plus the swipe to left and right, to where you could have so many different mechanisms just with that future right there with the haptic triggers, you know what I mean? Adaptive, which made Microsoft want to add that in. Sony even have their own Elite type controller with the DualSense, and it never needed batteries. That's one thing I've always loved about the PlayStation controller. So I have to say, this generation, Sony has definitely, like, even when you want to say you like the Xbox controllers because they break so easy now, they have outdone them in that category. Unless you just like that difference of not having the analogs left or right, but you rather have them diagonal, and that's just how your hands are. You know what I mean? You may just like that automatically, but I have to say, overall, the DualSense is amazing and much better. You can even turn down the LED to save batteries, but no matter what, you do not need a battery on it. And it has evolved, and it's a lot more comfortable now. I like it a lot. Even has its own microphone built in there, because that's, to me, more of a pro-consumer development and hardware manufacturing development rather than saying batteries are here. It's like, why do I need batteries? Oh, you want me to go buy an accessory? I shouldn't have to do that at this point. Though you can now stick that little aspect in there, but you have to keep it charged. With the DualSense, you could charge it and then unplug it and go wireless. So it just wins. Sony found ways to improve that even more. If we want to talk about anything in comparisons, the PlayStation 5 also has maintained its relevance. Sony didn't kill their market. They never put any games there day and date, but the service is still really good. And developers are focusing more on that because they know they're going to get their sales there, and it's a market and ecosystem they can trust. You don't know what to do when it comes to Xbox. It's now done, and now it's, do you want to do my play anywhere and help me out, or no, everybody wants to make money now, definitely with these prices jacking up. So that's going to be something that Microsoft has to pay for on your end. whereas Sony still has a market like Nintendo that is healthy and flourishing. So like when you really think about competition, it's like, what is it really going to be? I just think it's hard now. The best thing Microsoft could do is say, hey, I'm number one publisher on your own platform. And I'm competing head to head with you as a publisher, and I'm selling more copies of this game because it's not locked there day one. There's a potential for that for games like Forza, State of Decay 3, Fable, and Gears. They can do that there. And maybe some other games, you never know. Obviously, Call of Duty is always going to be there, so but they need to rethink about how they're going to structure that game. But developers still are going to choose Sony. It's just like there's a GTA 6 article that I just read that they're specifically designing it around the PlayStation with FSR 4 and all of that because that's going to be their market. That's always been the home of them. So Sony's strategy is pretty much the same as it's always been, except they're extending the PS5 generation, as I said, through potential innovations like PS5 Go. You got the handheld going on, you got the Portal going on, you got some games coming out on Steam, but it's still PlayStation publishing increasing. So that's Sony also being a stronger publisher. So that's not necessarily seen as negative for Sony. Definitely if they're still getting 100 million consoles sold and their ecosystem is flourishing and they're making more profit than ever. Although I told you about that MTX stuff. So with Xbox, like it says, they're facing growing uncertainty. I agree. Definitely with the AI push that Satya's trying to force people to do. And you just don't have any confidence in the Xbox brand because you don't know what's going to go on outside of them just being a third-party publisher. But is that really like helping people out who are thinking about hardware? Not really, because you can just play that wherever you want on a more powerful PC, on a more powerful PS5 Pro. I mean, so man, it just feels less competitive now, and it is a little bit like I'm like, oh man, you know what I mean? Not that I need this big console war to go on, but there was some fun to it. To where at the start of every year, I always like seeing Phil Spencer come out, and I kind of like seeing that competitiveness happen. But now it's kind of soft now, and you're looking more towards the Steam machine, non-Windows 11 futures, what Nintendo has, all their dev kits are out, what's going on Steam too, what's going on PlayStation. And they all have their own identities, which are very strong. So Microsoft had to move away from exclusives, which we know that because they don't have a choice to be a strong publisher. Halo, you saw the guy put on the t-shirt, hey man, you know, that's what's going on in the PlayStation world. Get ready, Cortana. And Indiana Jones appearing on PlayStation, and we saw the Switch 2 version. And all those games are going to Switch 2 as well, I'm telling you. And other platforms, reflecting a strategic pivot under CEO Satya to prioritize broader accessibility over platform-specific content. No, it's that you can't do it, so you want to promote that. It's like you're losing in Copilot, so you gotta try to force it everywhere. Hey man, you're gonna cuck out. That's how it works. This shift has led to criticism that Xbox is losing its unique identity, and this is things that I was talking about for a long time, guys. When it comes to anything in life, like when you think about the top of everything, when you're the number one player, it's unique identity. Well, why is he number one? Let me see. Why is this team always dominating? Why do they get the most sales? There's an identity there. Why is Apple always number one? Why is Nvidia number one right now? Even though I don't agree with some of their anti-consumer behavior, but that's not the point. Why is Steam the number one used gaming aspect on Windows? Why is Nintendo won the whole thing in the console world? You know what I mean? And it's hard to sell of gaming. Why did PlayStation win its battle? Them and Nintendo both winning. And they all have their own unique identities. Microsoft even when they monopolized with Windows. Call of Duty when it was rolling, that's Activision identity. Battlefield when it's dominating. Arc Raiders, see, these are all identities. Star Wars when it was dominating its own identity. We can go on this forever, and you guys know what I'm talking about. Lakers dominating when they used to dominate forever, right? You know, Tom Brady, when he used to dominate with the New England Patriots, everything that you think about, right? Any type of music artist, there is identity there and label. Nike and Michael, you see what I mean? Identity. And those are the best, and they get to the top. When you look at the top, it's not everywhere. No, it's identity. So Microsoft losing their unique identity sucks from an American standpoint. I don't like it, obviously. So we get that aspect here where they're saying Xbox losing its unique identity, with some arguing that the PC is now the primary Xbox experience. You're an app on there, and there could be all types of apps on there. A major development in 2026 is the rise of cloud gaming, where PlayStation has gained a significant edge. I would say so. The PlayStation Portal, now capable of streaming thousands of PS5 games directly from the cloud without requiring a physical console, surpasses Xbox cloud gaming in game library size and functionality. You know, I always worry about this type of stuff when it comes to Microsoft. I'm like, how is this happening again when you're supposed to be the leader in cloud computing? You think about Azure, you think about all these things. It's like missing the RAM stuff for data centers. It's like, it makes you question, like, what is going on in that company? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why does that happen? But it does. And Sony once again gets ahead. They supplied the RAM ahead, and they ain't even pushing AI like Microsoft is. Doesn't it make you think like that? It's like, good Lord, man. So surpassing a cloud gaming in library size and functionality, Sony stream your own game features over 2,800 titles, compared to Xbox 2,107 and is available on PC. Expanding across beyond dedicated hardware, this moves Sony's position to challenge Xbox not just in console sales, but in cross-platform accessibility and cloud-based gaming. PlayStation is dominating them completely now. They're going to have to step their game up when it comes to publishing, because PlayStation publishing in 2026 is going to be very strong. Xbox publishing has to be very strong. We already know Nintendo publishing is going to be very strong. Steam could blow up with Half-Life 3 and have a whole bunch of aspects come out of that, like an Orange Box over time, Blue Shift. You know how they had, Orange Box, Team Fortress? They could have that going and be completely fine. Furthermore, Sony is reportedly exploring cross-buy functionality similar to Xbox Play Anywhere, potentially allowing games purchased on PS5 to be played on PC, which could disrupt Steam's dominance and capture more revenue. That's a possibility. This strategic expansion into PC and cloud ecosystem suggests Sony is no longer solely focused on console hardware, but they're doing good enough to not have to worry about that, because they're still going to sell, because they have that manufacturing mastery. But on building in a loyal base, a comprehensive multi-platform gaming ecosystem. Meanwhile, Microsoft's next generation console is expected to launch in 2027, possibly with full Windows integration, as they just clarified it is happening, and support for Steam and other PC apps, basically anything your machine can do right now, which could blur the lines further. However, with Xbox's current hardware and software strategy and scrutiny and Sony's cloud and hardware innovations gaining momentum, the rivalry in 2026 is no longer about which console is more powerful, but about which ecosystems offer the most value, flexibility, and content across platforms, because you can't do that game anymore between those two. But it's still very important in the other worlds, because if you could have both, why would you not do that? Where it's like, my console is making more than ever, and I'm still doing this, and I'm still making more than ever. Who doesn't want that? Of course you do. And Nintendo just combined both of theirs in one. So they already had that going a while ago. So this kind of like elaborates everything here almost kind of perfectly, that when you think about the rivalry in 2026, the only thing that it seems plausible is publishing rivalry. Game Pass is too expensive now, but Microsoft maybe could add a lot more value to it. But I don't know, man, with the way they're not getting their way in AI. So you guys are going to have to let me know what you think about this. What do you think about the rivalry now? Are you a little bit let down by it because you want to see more competition? Have you accepted the position of where the Xbox is at with the Xbox Series 2? Realizing that games that you wanted to be exclusive are now going to sell more on PlayStation and Switch 2, and even Steam potentially. And that if there was going to be competition, it couldn't be that way, because your console needs to be dominant too on its own, and it's not. And that's the reason why they have to go down this platform. There's a sense of trying to look at it as the future, but then there's also a sense of realizing that nothing was better, and you were having your most fun when it was console exclusivity versus console exclusivity, and Xbox was actually doing good, because some people try to act like that's not the case, and only because it's not doing good on that end. And nothing was more exciting than that in those times, and because that side is not doing well anymore, you feel different about the game. Even for the people who are on the winning sides. And that's where I'm at, because I've always chosen Nintendo, and I've liked PlayStation, and I act like Xbox, but I like them all regardless. But you're lying to me if you're saying that when that was going on, you did not have a lot of fun. That it was interesting, the salt farming, all that. You guys would be lying if you said that wasn't there. It all got tore down, you know what I mean? So let's be a little bit more honest here. It made things kind of healthy in a way if you were mature. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. I just kind of wanted to do an update on this in 2026, because I haven't really talked about this lately. I've been covering all sorts of topics. Leave some comments, y'all. Peace out, and thanks for all the support. Love you all. Later.